enough to.
I'm going to call the Administrative Services Public Meeting of September 6th to order. Roll call, Terry.
Here.
Pam.
Here.
Teresa.
Here.
Matt.
Here.
And I'm here. We're missing Eric and Gloria, but we have a quorum. Is there any public comments on the list?
No, sir.
Okay. Member comments?
You want minutes approval?
Oh, yeah, we probably
Okay, I've got there.
Sure. Who wants to?
I'll make a motion. Second.
I do have a comment though about it.
Okay, what's the comments on the minutes?
I think that under members' comments, that maybe we should note that it was Terry Grito's comments that are listed here, because it doesn't give her credit for them.
I certainly have no problem with that. You want to add that somehow? Can you do that?
Okay.
Okay. All right, with that change, everything else okay? All those in favor of the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So the minutes are approved. Now I'll get to public comment. Did anything else get added? Not seeing any? Okay, we'll pass the public comment. Members' comments, I only have one. HR has which is 10.2. We'd like to move it up and make it 5.3 because they've got some union negotiations to do at 10:15 this morning, and we'd like them to make certain they can get them. Other than that, I don't have any other changes or corrections. Anyone else have anything? If not, we're probably early. Now, where's HR? Because she's not here yet. Maybe we'll make it a little later. We'll do HR when they get here. Is Patricia here? I know it's early. Okay, well, we'll wait. We'll come back. You want to do routine consent agendas? Anything you want off the agenda? I'll jump at once.
I'll make a motion to approve the routine consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for the routine consent agenda. Roll call, Teresa?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, so those are approved. Okay. Who we got out? Somebody else is coming in. I just saw a door open, but I didn't see
Shannon?
who.
Must be Shannon.
Okay, never
The
mind.
interview's walking down there.
If the interview's there, and we can do the interview, that would be great. Get back somewhat in order. You come on in and make yourself comfortable.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
I'm Joe Garmau. I'm the chairman of this. The rest of you would like to introduce yourselves. Go ahead.
Matt Kunkel.
Teresa Mashas?
Terry Greenhouse.
Pamela Altoff, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the Valley High Cemetery Board.
I have been a resident of McHenry County for about 33 years. I work at the Rape Crisis Center here in McHenry County. I have been with them for 3 years, 1 year as a volunteer, 1 year as a paid contractual employee, and over a year as the most senior staff member. Due to a federal funding cut, we had lost our financing for this upcoming fiscal year of '24. So we have spent this last year working on getting funding. We had feared that McHenry County wouldn't have a rape crisis center. We were able to secure funding, so we were able to keep it, thanks to the wonderful people of McHenry County. So I work in the hospitals here, I work in the courthouse. I've been able to develop relationships with the media here in McHenry County, so I was able to get the plight of what was going on here out into the media, and we made it onto the front page of the Daily Herald and the Northwest Herald. I'm a former deputy coroner here in McHenry County as well. And for the last 2 years, I have been on the Valley High Cemetery Board. I have gone out, I'm also a funeral director in Walmart. I previously had volunteered to go to different cemeteries, mostly Calvary in Evanston, and I have done volunteer work to clean up graves that have been left unattended. So that's just kind of I don't want to call it a hobby because it's not, it's just a passion of mine. So when I got on the Valley High Cemetery Board, I kind of took it upon myself to go out on occasion and clean up the grave sites because everybody deserves that respect and death. And death care has been my life, really. And I just want to continue being able to do that. I think not being on the Valley High Cemetery Board, going out, people don't understand it. And I just want to be able to continue giving my time to people of McHenry County, people that can't help themselves. And sometimes people don't have any loved ones left that can go out and attend to the graves. So I would do that in my spare time. And of course, having a little bit of a platform in the media, being able to get that out there that we need volunteers.
Thank you very much for all you do. Who did you work with outside of just the media? Did you work with anybody at the federal level with regard to that funding? Totally off topic, just of interest to me.
I'm actually a lobbyist. I'm a co-chair for the Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault in Springfield. I'm on the Public Affairs Committee. So we have worked at the federal level. I work with the General Counsel. Her name is Sarah Boyning.
Yes, thank you.
I would also thank you for all the work that you have done and are continuing to do, and I appreciate that. But I will give everybody else a chance to ask you any questions if they have.
So, the other thing I saw is that I noticed that, and this is true, I think we probably do need more awareness of what's happening at the Valley High Cemetery. So you'd put that one of your goals. So do you think that should come through maybe our chairman email or just pushing it out in our, what kind of excerpt would you want put forth kind of like at the moment about so that people are more aware? Because I do agree with you that I don't think people in the county really think about the cemetery.
I would like to have the opportunity to speak at a board meeting.
Oh.
And put that out there.
All right.
That we would like to have some volunteer days because there are volunteer days here in the community.
Okay.
And I think a volunteer day at the cemetery would be really helpful. And I would be more than willing to get that underway.
All right, great. Well, again, I thank you for your commitment to the county and your continued interest in serving on this board.
So, Gloria, we're at Patricia, how do you pronounce the last name? Bogard?
Bogard.
Bogard's interview. Do you have any questions for her? I know that.
No, I read the packet though, Tricia, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Just thank you.
Mr. Austin.
Patricia, maybe for my benefit as much as anybody, but I think everybody wanted. If you can give us like 40 seconds on what's the mission of the Valley High Cemetery? I mean, it's not because it's not just anybody can go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not connected with Valley High.
Correct.
So
A lot of the grave sites are people from the county that are indigent. They have never really been given, well, they haven't been given a proper memorial service. They've never had their headstones, or actually their grave markers. Most people refer to them as headstones. They're not, they're grave markers. They've never been cleaned. They've never been adorned by any type of flag, any memorials. On their birthday, they've never had any type of flowers. It's overgrown with weeds. I think that giving them proper respect, even though they're indigent, they were still human beings, they still were dedicated to our community. I think that they need to be given the proper respect that sometimes they don't have families, but we can still give them the respect they deserve in death.
So if we were to work on communications as Teresa suggested, would that be looking for volunteers to help clean the site or?
Yes.
That kind of thing?
Volunteers to clean the site, people that would be willing to go to the community and ask for supplies, things like that.
How many people are we interning a year?
At the cemetery?
Yeah. Pretty infrequent.
It's maybe one a year. When I was in the coroner's office, there was one. Most people, we're running out of space, so most people will be cremated and the cremains will be put to the ground, and many times there aren't grave markers.
Thank you. Any other questions? Not, then thank you. You're the next thing on the agenda to be discussed, so you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to stay.
I actually have to go to court and do an order of protection for one of our residents.
Okay.
Much more important than listening to
Important work,
us.
yes.
Yeah.
No, it is, I would love to be able to stay, I really would.
Well, this is taped, so you can hear it later on, and you'll hear what we have to say.
Okay.
But go, feel free to go take care of your other business. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me this morning, I greatly appreciate it. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you. I make a motion to select Patricia Bogard for the Valley High Cemetery Board to serve until August 1st, 2026.
A motion by Teresa, seconded by Matt. Any discussion, any additions or corrections, or anything that people want to say? I think we could all be so happy if all of the committees had people that motivated to join them. With that, roll call. Teresa?
Yes?
Gloria?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes too. So that will go on to the county board with our recommendation. We're going to take this out of order. Go ahead, you're up. 5.3.
Thank you so much.
It used to be 10.2.
Okay.
I'd ask they be moved up because I have negotiations across the street and trying to.
Got your
do
10,000
too many
steps in,
things.
right? Yeah.
For the last month, I was asked if I could produce a turnover report, and that's what I have for you.
Thank
So-
you, Cheryl, for doing that.
You're welcome.
I made that request, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to see that. Thank you.
So the one on top is this year for the last 12 months. The next page was the previous 12 months. And so the turnover rate overall for the county in the last 12 months from July through the end of June was 16.58% for the county. Last year, for that same time period, it was 19.02%. So that's good. We've improved. So when I looked at that, I was like, well, okay, so what does that mean and how does that compare with the national numbers? So the page with the yellow and the green, I went on to the Bureau of Labor Statistics under state and local governments, excluding education. I figured that was probably the closest to us. And again, the turnover rates, the national turnover rates in those sectors were, again, 21.7 down to 20.6. So we're better than the national average. Again, if you look at, again, the front page, which is our most current statistics by department. Of course, some departments have higher turnover levels than others. So I did reflect the turnover rate for each department also. So in the system, we break it down by who resigned, who retired, who was let go, people who passed away, and then sometimes there's an other category, undefined. The one that I do break down is why do people resign? I mean, retirements is pretty clear. I'm retiring because I can and I want to. Discharges, it's usually because of some kind of performance issue or attendance issue or whatever. But resignations is kind of an unknown. So we try to capture that information through exit interviews. We're getting much better at doing exit interviews. You'll see last year we had a lot of unknowns. Actually, this year, I'm sorry, the top one was maybe it might have stayed a different than yours.
Yours is what you say it is.
Yes, okay. So I'm looking at 6/22 through 23. Last year, we had a lot of unknowns. We really kept saying, we gotta do more exit interviews, we gotta catch more people. And so this year, we see we only have 3 unknowns. So we got better. So we have a better idea of why people are leaving. So again, 23% of people are leaving for new jobs, 24% are still in search of more money. Again, we are not the highest paid people in the county, we're middle of the road. Some people are leaving for personal reasons, some people are moving. We still have about 11% leaving because of the work environment. They're experiencing something within the work environment that bothers them. And so we, again, as we see a pattern within a specific department, I will go meet with that department head and say, how can I help you work with this supervisor? How can I help you, deal with whatever this issue is? But we still, that number still, I don't like that number. It's one that we still need to work on. Some people just decided they want to go back to school. We had one person this last year. 21.64% left for other reasons. And 2.24%, 3 people left because we don't know why. So that is the turnover report. I don't know if there's any questions. I
Oh, it's really helpful, actually.
don't know what else I can give you.
Yeah, there are tons of questions. So who conducts the exit interview? Is that HR or is that their supervisor?
Well, we encourage the departments to do a type of exit interview just to make sure that, well, they can gather as much as they want, but really to understand what's the workload, who's going to do it, where did we leave off, how could we have done better. But we do one, and many times they speak a little bit differently to us than they would have to their immediate supervisor. So we try to catch everyone, and so these are numbers that we caught. So sometimes the departments ask us for copies of those, and we try not to give those, because sometimes when people leave and do an exit interview, they're frustrated, they're angry, and sometimes there's some venting in there that we don't want to
That's right.
raise flags unnecessarily. So I look for patterns. And so if I see 2, it's like a yellow flag. If I see 3, I see a red flag. And that's when I go talk to the department and say, here's something we potentially need to be looking at. But these are numbers that we collected in HR.
I commend you for doing that because as director of HR, I conducted the exit interviews, and I would have individuals say, well, I'm going to tell you the real reason why I'm leaving, but you
Yes.
can't tell my supervisor.
Yes.
And so you have this decision, because if I give someone my word, I have to keep that. So the way I handle it is exactly the way you're doing it. I would keep that private, but if I get 2 or 3 people that are saying the same thing,
Yes.
I would talk to that supervisor and not, these people didn't say this, but I think we need to talk about this. There's something going on here.
Yes.
We have too many people leaving for this reason,
Yes.
whatever, But, yeah.
Yeah.
And then some will never tell you. Some will just say, oh, I'm just ready for change.
Yeah.
That's good information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I do have one other report on the backside that I think I gave it to you about a year ago, and I thought it might be time to bring it up again. And this is just really looking at the ethnicity and gender and earnings of our employees. This is really interesting. When you go and you try to look at the ethnicity breakdown of the county, depending on what site you look at, the numbers are different. I don't know which is the official set of numbers. I don't know which one I should refer to. But this is the one that I'm using. So you can kind of look at the ethnicity breakdown. We're pretty good. We're a little high on white, a little low on Hispanic. 2 or more has always been kind of an iffy one because it's like, I don't know what that is. So again, we're a little bit higher on women. than we are in men, but again, most of those are administrative, because when you look in the lower chart, where you see women, the highest number of women are, 210 out of 589 are making less than $25 an hour. So it's many low-paying administrative jobs. As you look at the chart, you can kind of see, as we get to the higher end, the higher wages, you see a lot of the other ethnicities dropping off. And you see the number of women kind of dropping off. So this is something that we need to be conscious of, and as we hire and recruit, that if we have candidates who are equally qualified, that maybe we want to consider diversity as part of our mix. What's that? It means that if we have 2 equally qualified candidates, and there's part of the deciding factor might be an African-American woman versus a white male, if they're equally qualified, because we don't have many African-American women. Especially if it's in a higher paid position, we don't have any. So if they're equally qualified, it should be, I think, part of the criteria of selection, if they're equally qualified. Thank you. So it's what's under the covers. We just need to always be aware of it.
Well, the numbers are good. I want to applaud you. And we do know from actual data that diverse workplaces are more productive. You have ideas that are coming from different ethnicities, different background experiences, and they bring more to the table. Look, you got me here, right?
Thank you.
It's time to laugh a little bit.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Go across the street and do your best.
Thank you.
GIS. I thought I saw her come in. Come on up. Oh, Aria.
Morning.
6 months notice.
What's your time? You know everybody here, right?
My name is Nicole DeJuza. I'm the director of GIS, and I was told to keep it simple, so
Please do. Thank you.
for our budget presentation, so I guess I'll start with going through the numbers for revenues and expenditures. So for the GIS department, we're fully funded through, our revenues are coming through recorded documents within the recorder's office. And the number that we have projected is based on the new fee that was approved this morning. And then, so another major change is under contractual services. That's increasing by $45,000 due to an increase within our GIS software. Esri is the main software vendor. Their prices are going up. And then the other, we have 2 supplementals. Oh, sure.
Do you anticipate that as something that will happen every year from this point forward? Or was this just a huge kick up because we haven't seen anything over the past several years?
For the Esri software, that we haven't had a contract within the last 3 years, so every 3 years they reevaluate it. And I talked at great lengths with them, and they said this is happening. Their prices are increasing with all their clients.
I would imagine, but again, they'll reevaluate again in 3 years. This will hold flat for those 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Thanks, Nicole.
And then we have 2 supplementals. One is for a GPS unit. Working with other departments, it's come up, for instance, with the health department, they'd like to go out and collect data. And then also working with municipalities that don't have any resources for GIS. We've been working a lot with Wonder Lake. They don't have any capabilities, so having a GPS unit within our department to help either lend out to another department or assist other entities. Also, we have a supplemental for a drone. Currently on our staff, we have somebody who's certified to fly a drone, but we don't have a drone. This would also be helpful with helping communities that don't have any support, or within the county, if there was major flooding, we could help emergency management get an idea of, what's going on. So there are some other drone operators within the county, but we don't have a drone within our office.
So you have a pilot, but not an airplane?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I have a question. When you said you help Wonder Lake with, because they don't have, what is it that, I'm ignorant about this. Explain to me how you help Wonder Lake.
Sure. So we started working with both Woodstock and Wonder Lake on a GIS co-op program where we help all municipalities really with all of our data, but we're taking on a bigger load with them, meaning like we're planning to house their GIS data within our environment and then provide additional services to them that goes beyond just giving our data. We have always created maps for communities that don't have that support, but I guess the bigger initiative is actually housing their data, additional data sets that we normally wouldn't collect. That's what we're talking.
You mean on your database because they don't have the capacity to do it in-house?
Yes, yeah.
We get everyone's data. I mean, you just approved this. When we do our flyovers, we're using public dollars to map the entire county. But sometimes, and I'm oversimplifying this, but then private vendors get this data and sell it back to municipalities, and contractual service that gets sold back to municipalities. We've got it here. Nicole doesn't have the capacity to serve everybody, certainly, but we'd like to build on what we have. And so we are providing a little bit more low-cost service to the municipality.
Yeah, I think that's really commendable. Thank you.
So Nicole, I'm Terry Green, and I just want to understand, your department is the one that archives all of the historic mapping that we have in the county, also in the Athena application?
Yes, we update all the parcel transactions. So if a new subdivision comes in, we map that out. If somebody sells off a piece of their property or it's to subdivide it, we would do that mapping. And then we do other layers on top of it.
But I mean, you're archiving historical information also too, because I know in our property we've got that a long time. But that's what you do, right?
We do. Every year, at the end of the tax year, we archive what the properties look like for that given year.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is, do you think that all of the historical documents, like things that we might have going back to the 1800s, early mid-1900s, are there still some that are being found and put into the system, or do you feel that it's very thorough and complete at this point?
If there's ever a discrepancy, I mean, on a rare occasion, we'll go back to as far as we could find. One circumstance was there was a discrepancy between the county and a property in Crystal Lake. We went back to the 1800s to really map out, okay, whose ownership it was. And so it's a rare occasion, but at times we do.
Let me reframe it. Do you still have paper documents that you use that are not in the, have not been digitized?
No, everything is documented in the recorder's office. The documents that we use to map properties they're all fully recorded.
Okay, that's amazing. I think we're ahead of the curve on that as a community. And so, for example, if there was some discrepancy in property boundaries, and like, I mean, some of these descriptions, when you go back, say, 42 inches from the tree with the hole in it, and now the tree's gone. I mean, there are some crazy things. Do you guys get involved in helping people determine what the actual boundaries are?
Yes, we would research the documents. There is interpretation when reading some legal descriptions. But we would do it in conjunction with the assessment department and.
People move the posts, that have been.
Yes.
So, okay. Well, thank you. That was really helpful. We've used you a lot, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other questions for GIS? I would just say keep it up, because I know I probably average once or twice a day that I'm on Athena. So historically, just to give you an idea, to get an aerial photograph when I started in this business in the mid-'80s, I had to spend $100 to sit to get an aerial of anything. And so the fact that I can go online and if I, and pull up aerials that we have here and get details that I could never get from SIPMA, it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before she leaves, is everybody okay with what she said for budget?
Concurrence to send it forward, yes.
Okay. Any changes on that? So concurrence for everybody to send it forward?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
County administration. We're not giving these guys anything.
We're gonna take the team approach here. 25% price cut.
Why the team approach? Yeah. Everybody's all out.
Did you think you were gonna?
I knew you. Scott wrote our script and he said, Pete, open it up and watch the magic happen. So, but we are going to follow the scripting and kind of keep it not light, but focus on where the changes are, what the highlights are, what are the new things we're going to be working on. And each of these guys have a couple of notes that they want to say. But I feel like we stay in good contact with this committee, throughout the year. So there's nothing here really here that's going to be surprising.
We're getting rid of all of you.
What's that?
We're changing the department. We're not going to have an administrator.
So I'll get out of the way.
Thanks, Pete, for opening it up. Scott Hartman, Deputy County Administrator, part of the administration team. And one of the most notable changes you'll see in this year's budget is really with regards to personnel. In fact, it should be a reduction in personnel in some respects. And that changes really because the county also has an economic development fund. That used to be the former revolving loan fund for those who've been on the board for a number of years. That is used to fund economic development initiatives and efforts. So this budget reflects actually a change to move 25% of the county administrator's salary out of the general fund in administration and move that into the economic development fund. The reason being is because our county administrator spends a lot of time working on economic development on behalf of the county, and it's attributable to that effort and helps relieve the pressure on the general fund. Conversely, though, there is movement of the deputy county administrator's salary, 25% of which, into the county administration budget, the general fund budget. Previously, my position was funded 100% out of the tort fund, which is your liability insurance fund. And this is reflective of the fact that the deputy county administrator position really is a general administration position. There's still a lot of work with tort, with insurance, with claims.
Made that model.
Made the tort fund model. If you love seeing that, I can show it on the screen too if you want to. Okay, well next time.
But the model showed that there isn't quite enough money in the tort fund, so this helped by taking some of Scott's salary out of that fund and moving it to the general fund.
Yeah, thank you. And it relieves that pressure on the tort fund. Similarly, though, 25% of the deputy county administrator salary is going into the economic development fund as well. Once again, because this position does a lot of work with economic development. And there is a revenue stream coming into the economic development fund by way of interest. We were averaging about $5,000 a month just in interest because of the investments. And so that's the most significant changes. Can we have a hand up?
I was just gonna say, is going forward, is that going to be part of the job description for the county administrator, just so that there's, there's obviously a record of that is going to be a portion. I know you do that, Peter, but looking to the future, is that ultimately going to be written into that so that, again, it makes sense to continue that type of division of dollars into economic development versus general fund?
I have to read, I have a job description, there's also the county administrator ordinance that kind of lays out the core functions.
Right.
I don't think it's a stretch to say that what's there already is reflective of some economic development activity, but I'll take a look at that, both those documents.
I just, again, it's not for you as much as it is for whomever sits here as we go forward, that there's a definitive delineation that is a responsibility, and as a responsibility, those funds should come from a different pool. Things change over 5 years. We change, you don't, you get it. I want this group, whoever this group is, to understand that as they come in, and that's part of their function and responsibility.
Having an economic development fund like we do is sort of unique. It's a legacy of 1980s revolving loan funds, and we finally just wiped it out. I don't know, how much do we have in there? North of $1 million. 1.3 million. So it'll take a while to exhaust that, and we're putting more money back in. So we'll have to keep our eye on that fund. We use that fund to pay our membership in the MCEDC annually. It's $160,000, and
Natural McHenry County.
McHenry County. So it won't be there forever at this pace.
Right, I think it's great, but again, I like that kind of documentation, so there's some historical, because again, I have no idea what the historical representation on the board is as we move forward. So just, everything shifts, yeah. It's nice to have it on paper.
That's all I have. If there's any further questions on the personnel changes, turn it over to Alicia.
Hello there, Lisa Schuler, Communications and Project Manager. And for my contribution to this budget presentation, communications has evolved quite a bit in the past couple of years. I'm sure you guys have all noticed it in your personal lives as you watch the rise of social media, the decline of different media outlets, and just in general, the world just seeming to shift, as it just seems to do so much nowadays. But at McHenry County, we've been collaborating even more across different departments and elected offices to be able to strengthen our messaging by working together. And one of the ways that we have done this is by acquiring together Archive Social, which is a social media retention platform, which is required by law to complete with the Illinois Records Act. So instead of acquiring this software separately by different offices, we have collaborated together and bought it together. And this includes various departments, including the Health Department, the County Clerk's Office, State's Attorney, EMA, County Administration, et cetera. So one of our contributions here is to bring some non-departmental dollars into the administration budget, because administration is shouldering the cost of this software and making it so that we are providing a service to other departments and offices.
An internal service provider. Okay. Thank you, Alicia. Carrie, what do you have to tell us?
Hello, I think you guys all know me, Carrie Wise. So this is my first budget preparation in my new role, so it's a little bit different, but I have 3 supplementals in there regarding personnel. And I think, again, coming from my old position into my new position, I have a somewhat unique perspective of exactly what those positions are and what they do and how hard they are to fill. So I have 2 in there, more to kind of, the first one is, she just completed the annual audit. And not only did she complete it with less audit findings than we had in prior years, she's working on a lot of processes to improve, just to improve everything from quarterly reporting to how we do the audit with our external auditor. And she's done a really great job, and I think this new grade is representative of the grade of people that have had it in the past. And so it's the midpoint of the new grade with the 2% shift. And then the second position.
Carrie, that first position, what's the name of it?
So right now it's called Financial Planning and Reporting Analyst. And really she's an accountant and she does a lot of accounting functions. So I wanted to change it to Senior Financial Reporting Accountant.
So keeping in mind, Carrie assumed her role at the end of January and kind of inherited a team. You moved some people around, but you kind of had some legacy titles and legacy pay grades and everything, so kind of put your own stamp on it now.
I assume Cheryl went through and created these.
So Cheryl was out last week.
Oh, okay.
So before it gets onto our final list, I will go through these with her.
They're relatively minor adjustments.
Yes. So then the second position is our payroll coordinator. And she came in, maybe a month or so after go live with Kronos, which, because of multiple reasons, was not the best implementation. I think COVID being the number one reason, because everything was remote and we had some turnover with the project managers. So really, she kind of inherited a mess. And she's done a great job in, I think, hopefully starting to renew some of the confidence of our employees, and also, utilizing the reporting better, which is one reason why we picked Kronos. But just really getting things fixed up. So because of her efficiency, she's kind of approached me saying, payroll, she has some room to grow. Obviously when she's doing payroll that week, that's her primary focus. But she's expressed interest in learning some more of the general ledger. So this, I've been trying to offload some of my responsibility. So
delegate.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. So she helps with loading the payroll from Kronos to the GL, which Kronos supplies a report, but we have a lot of intricacies with the grant reporting. So she's adding the grant numbers into Kronos, so it's a little bit easier of a transition into D365. Also helping me with funding Blue Cross and assisted a little bit with the personnel budget. So I really think because she's assuming more of the responsibility with the ledger, it's a little bit higher of a skill set. And then the last one is just a title change. We kind of go back and forth whether or not we have to have it on here, but I thought just to be.
There's no cost, it's just we're changing the title, we like to have a record of that.
Yes.
Questions for Carrie? You all happy, or you got one more to go?
Over to Shayla.
Me? Okay, I didn't know, are we doing Kat? Or am I?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, Kathy, that's right.
I didn't want to.
Thanks, Jalen. Kathy Bauer, all of you know me, of course. Also in the County Administration Office, we're working on promoting more online automation for a lot of the processes that we currently offer to not only staff, but the public as well. One being is the acceptance of payment online for both our raffle licenses and our liquor licenses, and whether that be for the renewals, which at the beginning of the years we send out big packets. We want to eliminate all that and take the process of online payments, and it's very helpful throughout the year too when people are just turning in like a $5 raffle and they have to come into the county for that. So we want to make that more efficient for the public and just more transparent with checks and balances and invoices for the online process for liquor licenses. But we're also updating our SharePoint with help with IT, and we want to update some of those processes that we're currently offering to as well with like room reservations and car reservations. Right now it's kind of all phone call, word of mouth, walking in and grabbing one. We want a trail of all of that, who's ordering it, who took it out last, and what they need for setup. So we're trying to do all that in the front end of county administration and just make that more efficient up front.
Okay, thanks. I'm Shaylin Daigle. I'm the county coordinator, and my job is to work with the municipalities and other local government agencies in McHenry County and as we go through the upcoming year, we have a lot of exciting programs underway. As Nicole mentioned, our GIS consortium with Wonder Lake and Woodstock has really been successful so far, and we've got a lot of positive feedback with that. We also have a joint purchasing program with the municipalities that the McHenry County Purchasing Department has been very active in, and that has been a great success for our municipalities. And then as we move forward, we're looking at a lot of cost-sharing programs. We've had some initial discussions about building inspectors within the municipalities and working with the county on that. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities to share costs with the municipality and make these programs a big success.
Do we have any, just because I always ask, do you have any idea of how much money we save through all of those shared services in general for the county, just as a talking point for all of us when we go out and talk about how smart we think that is? Sure. You know, in addition to being better coordination and communication, there's obviously a cost savings. We should know what that is.
There is, and we threw around a couple of different numbers. I'm going to use the Village of Cary, for example, with the police social worker program. They said it would be about $100,000 for them to hire a full-time police social worker on staff, and through the county's program, they're paying $25,000 and sharing a social worker. So
Getting better service.
And getting better 24/7, you know, 365 days of service. So, yeah, for our joint purchasing program with the McHenry County Municipal Partnering Initiative, we're always trying to grasp at these numbers, but we don't know what the numbers would be if a municipality or the county went on their own. But there has been significant cost savings that the municipalities have seen from what they were previously paying. So, yeah, quantifying that, we're still working on that, but we do hear that the municipalities are saving money.
And again, just for us here, you know, always on my little soapbox, when people start to talk about property taxes and increase in taxes, et cetera, that is exactly the answer, is how much we do at the county level to ensure that we are appropriately making sure that we are using every resource to keep those taxes low, including collaborating with all of our other taxing bodies. So just, you know, talking points as you move forward, because I think we're doing a phenomenal job, and that was one of the smartest things the county ever did, is to put that group together and coordinate through you, Shaylin, really.
Jill, and I was going to mention your meeting later this month, but can you do that for me, the MCMPI lunch thing?
Yeah, you should have all received an invitation. We're having an expo. It's our first annual expo at the end of the month on September 26th, and it's really going to showcase what the municipal partnering initiative is. I mean, right now we're doing a lot of joint purchasing programs for public works, but we hope to expand that. We are going to have some presenters there to talk about. One of the examples is CDL training. Right now municipalities have to pay for staff to go get their CDL training, but we're looking to put together some sort of train the trainer, where within the county there would be people that would be able to train those people on CDL training, so they don't need to go pay an outside company to do that. So there'll be a big presentation on that, so you're all invited to attend.
Any questions to any of them? Are we okay to go forward with to have the county administration's budget move forward?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Facilities.
I feel a little isolated.
Yeah, but your budget's flat year over year, so you're okay.
I can sit with you for a motion.
Thank you. Well, there's not a lot to talk about with revenue for us. The revenue for us is recycling, and we do cost sharing with mental health board. We provide limited maintenance services for them, and so that's where we see a little bit of money coming in for us. When we look at our Fund 100 budget projection for 2024, you'll see that when we take out personnel, we're at negative 95,000 from where we were last year. Last year was uncertain for us, primarily in energy, but also in commodities. We were in the midst of a very aggressive escalation of costs. And so we overshot a little bit there. And looking back at actual expenses for this year and what we see with renewed service agreements, we think we can pull back at about that, at that level and still be comfortable. You'll see a larger number that's, so there's $147,000 that isn't in our budget, which was the joint training facility. We had pulled that in to our budget last year. This year, that's moved into its own fund. Although we have access to that fund on the maintenance line items, it's just being carried in a budget. It makes it an easier reporting style for the sheriff and the board that will represent that joint training facility. So it was a fair amount of work to get there, but we went through it and we feel confident that we can work with that budget. On the supplemental side, we have $17,500 on personnel, and that really is a bit of an unknown. We're trying to increase the ability for our housekeeping team to move within the department. If we look at our turnover, it's really in housekeeping. Hard to retain, hard to hire. And we have some very dedicated people that work very hard to try to keep, particularly in the secure areas, things well organized. So it's a kind of unique situation in the courthouse and in many other offices than it is just, say, at a regular office building. So within that, we're working with Human Resources to develop a STEPS program where if a candidate chooses to apply to additional training and certification, we will support that. First, they will have to meet a attendance requirement and a quality assurance requirement. So first, the work has to be up to par. And second, they have to be a reliable employee. They need to be coming in and doing their work. So with that, we're hoping that it improves morale and gives us a leg up on hiring and retention. So that's what we'll see there. We also have in a replacement of a trench drain that supports the loading dock area. There's a cast iron drain that runs the width of the dock as you pull into it. That is starting to fail, and we need to replace that.
That's here at this building?
Oh, that is at the government center.
Across the street.
Right, where you see the dumpsters in the loading dock as you're pulling out and going west, you'll see that. Yes.
Has that gone out to the bid process, or is this an estimate?
It's an estimate, yeah. We talked to a contractor around terms. And then lastly, it is the crack sealing and seal coating and striping for the government center. For this building, I'm not advocating that we do seal coating, although it would, from an aesthetic perspective, it would look a little sharper. It really will have no effect on the longevity of the slot. The slot is getting near its replacement. We're looking at 2025, 2026 to replace the slot. And so I'd still like to get the traffic lines clear, do some crack filling, do some limited pothole repairs, and leave it at that. In that Treasurer's building, we want to emphasize the drive lanes for taxpayers. So some additional striping, seal coating, and et cetera. That's the exciting work we're planning on doing there. Fund 205, Highway Fund, again, net negative, basically utilities again. We do a 3-year rolling average on our utilities. We're constantly trying to drive costs down through energy improvement work, retro commissioning, et cetera. It's been successful here at the McDott facility. And we have a supplemental in to go over each and every overhead door that's at that facility, and just, we have a maintenance program, we have an outside contractor that comes in twice a year, goes over it, we look at it, but this is a comprehensive look at each door. We have a list of things we believe need to be replaced. This $24,000 that we've asked for will get through the 18 overhead doors that serve that facility. And lastly, Fund 800, Valley High. I don't have the advantage of being able to leverage any of the energy savings because we don't manage energy bill payment out of our budget. So that those dollars don't fall under our budget, so we don't have the same opportunity there. Basically, the $8,400 is a reflection of service agreement increases that we have there. That wraps it up.
So overall, you actually have a negative budget in terms of last year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Should be easy.
Well, we gotta prove that, yeah.
Well, thank you for that exciting report. We were at Valley High last night and they talked about breaking ground.
Yes.
And so we were given a date, was it October 4th?
October 2nd, when they're gonna break ground.
So.
Correct.
So
Equipment's gonna roll on the
I just wanted to bring it up because I thought you might have a little inside information that we didn't get.
I know, nothing really, you're well versed in my exciting delivery of information. The excavator is scheduled to mobilize on October 2nd, that Monday. They may actually come out the week ahead, and we're trying to get demolition to occur 2 weeks ahead of the October 2nd date. There's an opportunity to get in and begin to remove this. We have the rooms are empty. Most of the things that were in these rooms and spaces have now been relocated or have been recycled or whatever. We're in storage for reuse. So, you know, we potentially the third weekend in September, we may be actually working there. Excavator would be October 2nd. So I know Mr. Annarella's and you are working on groundbreaking plans, I know.
Yeah, we're talking about it. Now, Peter, will there be a groundbreaking? I know we talked about some.
We are planning that, and we had a couple dates that we were playing around with yesterday. In my conversation, Scott and I met with Chairman Bueller last night, and I think we're gonna look at the afternoon of the 18th.
Okay.
Wednesday, the 18th. You have
It's
board meeting.
October.
Yeah, October.
I'm not advocating you raise your budget. But are you comfortable with your supplementals? I'm assuming they're all estimates, nothing's been out, EPDM.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Put some work into them, and I think we're going to be we'll be okay.
Okay.
Yep. Welcome.
We're all okay with him letting this budget go forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you see that?
IT.
Tom has historically brought us a lot of supplementals. Right? And some of it is just to get it on our radar, and he does a good job of ranking priorities. I don't know that we're gonna go through all.
Well, also too, I wanted to mention, I wanted them on his discussion because mostly I don't understand exactly what they are. But a lot of these are built into the non-departmental budget. So you won't see the numbers specifically in his, but just so you have an idea of what's out there.
Because some of those things cross all departments, so we put them in non-departmental.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I noticed that like some of these say absolutely have to do,
Yeah.
so.
And if you notice where they'll say like Department 90
Yeah.
on those, that's the non-departmental budget.
So I'll just jump with that. Yeah, I was just saying, go ahead, tell us.
Try and get through this quickly, but if you have questions, you know, ask me right away. So the first capital outlay request is, and it's got a question mark on there because I don't really know what the number is. The average cost of a cyber breach is $7 to $10 million. And I know Scott has been upping that on a regular basis every year, but I don't think we're at that level yet. So I think we have to continue to increase that because they are very expensive. So that's the first one. D365 Finance and Operations Tenant Migration. D365 lives in Microsoft Azure, right? And Microsoft Azure there's a commercial space and a government space. And when we bought D365, it was only available in the commercial space. It's now available in the government space. Everything else we have is in the government space, right? So all the security, everything we're paying for in terms of Office 365, that can be applied to D365, but we can't do it until we get it into the same tenant. So this $150,000 is to engage a consultant to help us move that over from the .com space into the .gov space. Let's see this next one, data classification plan. This number might be a little bit low because I think this has been on here for 10 years. So the county has a ton of data, and what we really should do is go through all that data and classify it in terms of who owns the data, who is responsible for the data, what kind of data is it, what type of security should be on it. Is it HIPAA data? Is it just regular data? Is it I need to go to lunch data? We really need to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and figure out how we should be managing that data.
It's how you should protect that data.
Yes.
What level of protection's on
So how many years do you think, you've been trying to get this through and it hasn't gotten through?
We've been talking about it probably 10 years. I'm not gonna say it's been the highest priority, and it's not the highest priority today either. There's other things that are more important. Like these personnel requests that are coming up here. The first one is for a Deputy Chief Technology Officer. So the CTO is probably the most important position in, not probably, the most important position in IT, because that person really understands how all the networking, all the security, all the applications, how the firewalls, the internet, how all the routing works. And we have one person that understands that. And so when we talk about business continuity planning, when we talk about succession planning, it's critical that we get another person in that role. And then these other positions.
Before you leave that one, though, Tom, it is business continuity and it is succession. This position is something Tom and I have talked about for a while now, and we're not all going to be here forever. But we've got some people that I think need new challenges, need new responsibilities, and it'll help us on retaining them. It'll help us on building continuity, and we're going to know who's the next man in, or woman.
Do you think you already have this person and we're just gonna promote them? Or do you think you're gonna go out with a?
If it's funded, we would look internally first. If we can't find someone internally, then we go externally. I think that for the money that we're requesting here, it's probably gonna have to be an internal move out. It's still very difficult to find qualified IT people that have all the skill sets. And then even if they have all the skill sets for the money, it takes a year and a half for them to understand our county infrastructure. So there's some advantages with moving people up internally. But the IT market it's still super competitive because, it used to be you could find somebody local that didn't want to get on a plane every week, right? But now they're all working from their basement, so I can work for VMware and I don't have to be in California, right? So it's hard to find people at the price we're willing to pay with the right skill set. And these next positions coming up here. These are all enterprise systems, right? The first one is OnBase. It's the enterprise document management system. So we're managing all the documents within the county, and beyond that, we're building workflows, we're building processes within there. So one, from a work standpoint, we've got more work than one person can do, right? The queue is very long. The other part of this is the succession planning, right? If that person leaves, and people, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see people staying 30 years anymore. You know, it's more like 2 to 5, get something on your resume and then, you know, move on. So I think it's even more important now than it used to be to get some duplication in these positions for these enterprise-wide county management systems. You know, we do cross-training, but that person is doing another job, so they can't jump into that without having to backfill, you know what I mean? So that's on base. This next one here is county clerk's office. They have one IT person that helps with the elections. The elections continue to increase the technology, the challenge with the election increases, the scrutiny on the election are increasing, right? And the same thing, the succession planning. If that person leaves, then we've got nobody that understands, right? The next one here is, which one is this? Oh, the tax system, right? The tax system, same thing. We've got one person. You know, if you look at, say, for example, Lake County, I know we're not Lake County, they've got 5 people that work on the tax system. And it's not just, you know, when you talk about the tax system, it's not just the DevNet software, it's all the processes and other types of software that work and feed into that. And that's the collection and distribution of all the tax monies for the entire county, right? It's pretty important. The next one is the enterprise ERP system, which is multiple systems, right? It's D365, it's Kronos, it's the HR payroll system. We've got one person that supports that. Same, you know, thinking behind getting another person in that position. So those enterprise-wide systems, they're extremely critical to the operation of this county, right? If we can't collect the taxes, if we can't manage the money, if we can't run the election, we're gonna have trouble.
Come on, we all want to be in the headlines for the inept election, right?
So then we get into the supplemental requests here, D365 licensing. So we entered into a Microsoft Enterprise Agreement through CDW about a year ago, I think. And then we got this message from Microsoft saying our licensing wasn't correct. So it turns out that CDW didn't do the licensing correctly. And we went through this process and found out that we were $200,000, we were paying less, $200,000 less than we should have been paying per year for our D365 licensing. So we negotiated a bit and we were able to save $100,000 of that per year. So we saved $200,000 over the course of this 3-year contract. Actually $300,000 because we're not paying anything for this year, right? But we need to pay $100,000 extra next year and the year after that. Does that, I kind of jumbled through that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but how did CDW leave us in this position?
Yeah, so that is a good question.
And what liability do they have as a subcontractor to us for this position?
So I talked to the state's attorney's office, and it was their opinion that even though there were screw-ups on the CDW side and the Microsoft side, given the fact that we're using the software, we're using the licenses, this negotiated settlement was probably the best way to go. And that conversation could be furthered if we
Which
choose
seems
to.
like an unfair bid advantage when you come in and you bid lower than everybody else because you made incorrect assumptions on cost.
The other people did the same way.
Oh, they did the same way?
They did the same way. So I think it was more Microsoft's fault, but the onus goes on CDW because they're the reseller. secure storage additional disk space, so we have increased the amount of cameras around here quite a bit for security's sake, and that all takes disk space, right? And it takes a lot of disk space. And this particular request, this is for 2 units, so they would back each other up. I don't know that that's really necessary. I think we could get away with 1 if it went down for a couple hours. I think we'd be okay. So I don't think we need 2 of them, but put it in there as the request. And I noted that it could be halved.
Is part of this because of the longevity which we keep that information?
The shorter you keep it, the less you need.
Correct, that's what I'm saying, is part of this because we're keeping it longer than possibly we need to keep that information?
I don't want to say how long we're keeping it in a public forum.
And I'm okay with that, that's why I phrased it the way of, is it
Right.
possible that we're keeping it longer than we need to keep it?
There's never a problem until there's a problem.
That's a subject of debate, how long you want to keep it.
Okay,
You know?
but then in your professional opinion, would you say we are in excess of, or we're right on the margin, or we're low of?
I think we're either on the mark or a little bit low. I don't think we're keeping it excessively long.
Okay, thank you.
Cisco MDR, new 3-year contract. So right now, we've been in a 3-year contract with Cisco for managed detection and response services. This would be another 3-year contract. I don't know that this is really new money, but it's out there so that we don't forget about it. And I guess whether it's new money or not, that would be Carrie to say. But we have a 3-year contract right now. We've been paying for that out of a non-departmental fund. It's not out of the IT fund. I've upped this, I think, $20,000 or $30,000 a year in terms of estimating what it's going to cost, because everything seems to be going up. You know, we're seeing increases on our maintenance, software maintenance contracts anywhere between 12% and 30-some%. And there's another supplemental request in there to cover those maintenance costs, that inflationary cost. Cisco Enterprise Agreement. I don't know that this is new money either. I think there's some ARPA money that's been earmarked for this, but I wanted to get it out here. So we use a lot of Cisco software, right? We've got Cisco servers, we've got Cisco networking equipment, we've got Cisco security on our edge devices. This is Cisco's new way of doing that, is doing an enterprise agreement like Microsoft. It used to be onesie-twosies, but now it's all lumped in, rolled in together. MFD printer lease. This is like the other things going up a bit, but we're already paying for this, right? This would be a new 5-year contract that we're looking to lock into. Like I say, a little bit more money than we're paying now because of inflation, but it's not completely new money. PC maintenance fund. So when we rolled out the desktops and the laptops about 3 years ago, we made the conscious decision not to buy an extended warranty to cover it for 5 years or 6 years. We said we're going to establish an escrow fund, or we're going to pay for it on our own because we didn't think that that warranty was worth it. This is to establish that fund. I don't think we need $400,000 next year, but we need some money to start replacing things, right? Things are breaking on the laptops. You know, people leave them plugged in too long, they don't drain the battery all the way, so the batteries need to be replaced. There's hard drives, there's monitors.
So what, on a yearly basis, give me a thought of what that average cost would be? Best case, how about this?
I'm
Best case scenario, worst case scenario.
Somewhere between 30 and 50.
Okay.
You know, could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more.
Okay, no, that gives me a great idea. That's all I needed.
So I have a question. I don't like these things. And in fact, I was having a conversation with Dan last night about why we don't have laptops instead of these things. They're very limited. And I know that you got new ones.
I don't have a new one.
You
I'm
didn't
just
get
the
a
same
new
one
one?
I've had since 2020.
So, yeah, I thought I heard that all board members were gonna get new ones. I'm new, so I got a new one. And Terry's new, she got a new one. But I had heard that all board members were going to get new ones.
Yeah, Greg should have one for everybody.
Okay, well, Teresa doesn't have one. Who else doesn't have a new one?
I've used my own for 5 years.
Ditto, I have my own,
don't-
I've never used accountant's
personal
computer.
Yeah, well, so
No, I
here's the thing, it's got Outlook on here for the mail, and I have Gmail. It would be better for me if I used my own too. I would rather use my own laptop than to use this iPad. There are some, it's very, very limited with what you can do on
I
it.
think some people have been maybe not wanting to use their own because of FOIA.
Well, exactly, so give us a laptop then instead of this.
Well, what we were,
Easy, it's not insured.
the thought was that, there's different levels within the county board of
Who gets a
technical abilities, right? And we were trying to standardize across the board, but you're willing to use you can use your own device, that's fine, you don't have to use.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point for you. That's one of
Well,
the
it's
reasons
not
why.
him giving it to us, it'd be us giving it to ourselves.
I'm
So
sorry.
it's not up to him if we get it, it's up to us if we give it to ourselves.
It's
So,
up
we
to
get
us
to
to
make that
decide if there is,
decision.
yeah, but if there is a difference in cost between providing this and an upgraded laptop.
Yeah, but I mean, all of the other staff who have equipment, they have laptops, right? We're the only ones walking
They're not
around with
board
these
members,
pads. Yeah, so because we're board members, we get the pads, these cool pads. Is that it?
It's a cost.
It's a cost issue, it's a big cost.
This reduces the cost of the board this way.
I see.
We could really cut back and just go to legal pads and a pen.
Actually, no, the copy
Moving on.
costs
Yeah.
more than paid for.
That's the
Why
right.
we yell so much, how
So
much
that
does it
is
cost
the
us
only
to mail?
reason that costs that
license
the
out?
board has decided that we don't.
I don't know the actual cost of it because I just put the package in the outgoing mail, but they're pretty thick.
I mean, just all of that, staying on paper, the applications for
Right now,
liquor
Blair wants us
licenses.
to discuss giving ourselves laptops and stuff, but I don't think, this is out of the purview, I think. of-
Yeah, let's finish this budget here.
Yeah, this budget.
No, I don't need to discuss that, that's not
I
what I want.
concur.
It's just
Keep going.
difficult sometimes if someone sends an email and there's information there that I can't respond to unless I send the email to myself, and then it's just, it makes it very difficult for me personally to go through this iPad and do my job. That's
Yeah, we can talk about this more.
okay, good, I'll come talk to you.
This next request is for the state's attorney and public defender evidence maintenance. So sort of along the lines of what we were talking about before with video. They are getting just an enormous amount of video evidence that they have to keep, right? So one of these is a terabyte, every patrol officer in the county has one of these on them and one on the car. And then there's Ring doorbells and, Lisa and George are here. I don't know if they want to jump in, feel free. But the amount of evidence that they're getting in video is unbelievable. So they have a system now, but first of all, it doesn't do what they need it to do completely. And secondly, they're increasing their cost to beyond this cost, which is $76,000 a year. The other company was at around $100,000 a year. It's definitely a must-have because they have to be able to manage this data.
I'll just add that we did do some shopping around. Very few companies that did the demand came before the technology. So, but this company was one of the only that actually had other state's attorney's offices using their technology, and one that had it for the longest was over a year, and they were from Nassau County, New York, and they actually got on a Zoom call with us, and they were wonderful, that state's attorney's office, and they were very honest with us, but we feel very confident that this is the best way around this. It also will help with municipalities, when Shaylin was talking about sharing costs. This is going to also help it. George, why don't you talk about the portal?
So what this platform provides is it gives like an ingestion portal. So all of the external police departments that don't have their own evidence management system yet would then be able to log into our system. They would have credentials for our system and be able to submit their evidence directly to us without having to incur any additional costs until they have their own systems in place. That was one of the big key features that we were looking for, something that would encompass everybody else's needs as well.
So we're still fumbling around with DVDs as well too, because the ability to, with the current system, the ability to share this data with other people is.
And what's the time frame to convert to the newer system for newer technology? For the video?
The conversion time?
So like, if this is funded?
Yes.
So what would be ideal is if we could get it funded prior to the new budget year, right? And maybe not in terms of writing the check, but if we could sign the contract now, understanding that we will have the money in December, then we could get started on moving all the data from the current system to the new system, and we could get that done before the current contract expires.
But like I said,
About 3 months is what, 3 months is what we're thinking.
and the reason that I'm asking it is, isn't it critical right now that you get evidence to process cases much with like a fraction of the time that we would have to? It's almost impossible.
It's our burden to get the evidence and hold it for the laws. It's also, actually, it'll take 3 to 6 months to get it uploaded. We do have a system right now that's working. It does not have this portal, so we're struggling with that and the DVDs, but there's no way to, even if we started tomorrow, it's still going to be about a 6-month transition. And also the costs that are listed now will be going up as of January 1st. But the good thing about it is, as long as we sign that contract before then, there's no money, not one dime, that goes to them until everything's uploaded. So we will not be paying this probably for 6 months.
And I would, again, just assume and note that this is beginning technology. You were right. The need was identified before the technology caught up. I'm going to guess over the next 10 years, you're going to see huge shifts and development. This is going to be something that we're going to have to pay for a while. I mean, that's what technology does, right? It changes in 24. By the time we get our stuff in there, there'll be a new program. So I just, again, note, for the record, that this expense is not going to be something that we expense and then it's over. It's constantly going to be evolving over the years to keep up with the demands of what, current expectation is of the people in the justice system.
So it sounds to me like you'd be looking for a resolution to bring this up. I'm just sooner than later, like next month. You want a resolution next month, or one in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Someone put a resolution together quickly, please.
We can do that.
Could you please? I think it's really important.
Yep. Upgrade M365 G3 licenses to G5. So there's different types of Office 365 licenses, right? Different levels of it. We're at G3 right now. So this most recent hack on Office 365, we were only able to go back 30 days to see if we were affected or not. We're told by Microsoft that we weren't affected. It'd be nice to know for sure, because I don't know that they're going to come out and tell us. So in order to do that, you got to go to a G5. I don't know if that's worth it or not. That's why I didn't put it on there as a have to have. I think if we get this other disk space, we could probably run some of that logging to that disk space here, and we don't have to pay all that money. If we were gonna go on Microsoft's phone switch, then I think a G5 would be worth it for sure. But I don't know that we're gonna do that, because there's other costs associated with going to that Microsoft phone switch as well. The next one's Cisco ACI server segmentation. So we've segmented the network very well, right? So that this machine gets infected, you know, I can get that off on its own, right? So it's not going to peer-to-peer infect other devices on the network, right? On the server side, there's shared services, right? There's DNS, there's DHCP, there's servers that everybody needs to get to. So this Cisco ACI server segmentation takes that segmentation to the next level, not just on the end device side, but on the server side, so that same idea, like you can only get to one server and it can't hop from there to there, right? So it takes our security to the next level. I think that's definitely worth it. I just don't know if we got the money, you know? Just Appraised and Assessments, that's software that gets the sales data into the DevNet tax system, so that the assessments office can look at that when they're doing their work. We're trying to work with DevNet, the tax vendor. They're trying to get that information out of my deck right now, push it into DevNet, so we might not need this. We'll know within a month.
We'll know before you vote.
That's what I was gonna ask, will we know before the vote?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Upgrade Tritium Niagara framework network controllers. So the HVAC system within the county, the HVAC system is fine. It's the software behind that HVAC system that's very old. It's from 2008. It's a security problem. In order to upgrade that software, the controllers that are controlling the HVAC system have to be upgraded as well. So you have to upgrade the controllers, you have to upgrade the software, and that's $216,000. I would say that we really need to do that. It is a high priority to get that done.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
How is it a security threat?
Because it's an 08 server, Microsoft doesn't patch that anymore, and there's many attack vectors that are widely known.
Okay.
Great Plains application conversion to D365. This is in the treasurer's office. This isn't a have-to-have either. Maybe next year it's a have-to-have. They use in the treasurer's office, they use Great Plains to do the distribution of the tax dollars that are collected. And that could be done in D365. It's going to take some work to move that into D365. There's a lot of moving parts right now in the treasurer's office, and I don't know that they're ready to do that. But it's on the list as something that we gotta, keep our eye on. AT&T Managed Security Service for voice spoofing. This is on the list too. I don't know if you guys know, but there's people that are out there like spoofing, like a Valley High number, right? And then looking to get donations or money from these people, right? AT&T, they've got a solution, but it's not great. It's not going to solve the problem, right? So it's not a have-to-have at this point. Maybe in a year, they'll have it to the point where it's really going to be solid enough that we could put it in and it's going to solve that problem for us. But I wanted to get it on, get it on the board. Internet bandwidth redundancy. We've got multiple internet connections, right? And this is just bumping up the bandwidth to a gig. Kofax Power PDF Advanced. So we've got a lot of Adobe Acrobat, and the Adobe Acrobat that we're using is the older licenses, the perpetual licenses, right? At some point within the next year or two, that is going to be end of life. And you're gonna have to, or we're gonna have to upgrade to their subscription service license, right? Which is 3 times the cost of this Colfax license, right? This Colfax license, although it's $100,000, is a third of the price of moving everybody that's on Adobe Acrobat to the subscription. So we gotta start thinking about how we're going to do this, how we're gonna pay for that. This is a perpetual license, so it's more of a capital investment. It's $91,000 today if we bought them, and then 20% maintenance over, going forward over the years. So it's quite a bit cheaper than going with the Adobe Acrobat subscription service.
Is that gonna be a seamless transition from Adobe to Colfax, you think, or you're gonna think there's gonna be a lot of
Pretty seamless.
training?
We had 50 people, I think, testing it within the county, and just to make sure that it was a real, solution that did everything that they needed it to do.
Okay.
So they were using their existing files, they were creating new files. Everybody said that it worked.
Okay, right, 'cause I know Adobe. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
It's actually
You
got
know Adobe works, right?
It's got a better user interface than
Okay.
Adobe. It's more Microsoft-ish, so it's a little bit more intuitive.
Oh, okay.
Ningio cyber training. So these are like short snippets, almost cartoonish things that you can send out to everybody in the organization to further that idea that you got to be very cognizant of what you're clicking on and what are all the attack vectors people can use. It's a nice way to get that information out. It's a little bit entertaining, better than just text. I want to say most people probably just delete the ones we send out. They don't really read the whole thing through. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But this is a more.
I scanned it at least. I think to myself, am I going to be caught by this? I don't know.
This is a more entertaining approach to it. Finance bot project. I don't know that finance is ready for this this year. Maybe next year. I don't know if Gary can weigh in. This is a project to start using bots to take data out of one system and push it into D365. So a lot of that repetitive clerk type activity, you can take that out and reduce the errors, because even your best data entry is going to fat finger stuff, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. So looking to automate more of those processes. And that's just a budget number. I don't know exactly what it would be. It would depend on what we really target to do, right? And that's just the beginning, right? That is just the beginning, because this could be used in a lot of other areas within the county. Treasurer camera system. I have this as a has to happen because it's already happened. Because of the tax collection, we put a lot more cameras over there for visibility on just the general area, right? And that information is being recorded to disk space. MS Dynamics CRM study and plan. At one point there was appetite for this. CRM is customer relationship management, right? So what this would do would, it's a big project, right? And I'm thinking the actual project is somewhere in the 2 to 5 million range, but this would be a study to figure out how we want to start implementing it. So CRM software could sit up here, and you have your departmental systems, line of business systems sitting here. right? So you could have a CRM software that's giving you some visibility into all these line of business systems. So there would be a lot more integration within the county. I'm sure one of the big criticisms constituents have of the county is that department doesn't know what the other department's doing, you know? And that the CRM programs would start integrating that information and knowledge across departments.
And that's $2 million over what time frame?
2 to 5 million over, I would say that's the implementation cost. And then there's going to be continuing cost after that, probably similar to like a D365 where you're looking at, I don't know, 300,000 to 500,000 a year ongoing.
One of the things that came up when we were doing our strategic plan was to reduce the number of clicks to 3 clicks when someone comes on looking for information. And I was looking for something myself, and I know it's there because I found it before. And I did like 15 clicks, and I still didn't find it. I had to go back to my notes and find it. You know,
oh yeah, we should talk. We have done that to a large degree. I'm sure there's things that are still like what you're talking about. So if you can pass that on to us.
I'd be satisfied with 10 clicks if I could find it. I couldn't find it. I still could not find it. So yeah,
let's talk.
Okay.
Single mode fiber, the fiber that's going between the county buildings should be upgraded at some point. I don't know if that doesn't have to happen this year, but at some point we need to upgrade that. Departments budget for badges. This was just a reminder for finance to tell departments that, you know, these badges now, they're expensive, right? So if you've got X amount of turnover, plan to budget for X amount of turnover times $80 for next year. NordPass password manager, this was another reminder for the finance department to tell departments if they're looking for password manager software for people in their department, that's $80 a year. AT&T, ASE at the Sheriff's Training Facility in Cary and at ROE. This was just a reminder that there's costs out there associated with that we got to capture somewhere because it's not an IT budget. And then I just think there's one more thing, and I talked about it real briefly, is that it's an inflationary adjustment to the actual IT budget. The majority of the IT budget is for software maintenance outside of personnel costs. And like I said, we're seeing increases between 12 and 36%, somewhere, 20%-ish. And I think I put in $55,000 or $60,000 to increase that in the IT budget to cover those inflationary costs.
I don't know if I dare to ask, but are there any questions? I'm sure there's a lot of questions, but I don't know that we.
Thank you for the report. It was very thorough.
I mean, I guess, what's the process then for deciding which of these things are gonna go through or not?
Well, first of all, I appreciate Tom showing us everything that we need to be thinking about, not just this year, but in the coming years. And, Carrie and I are meeting at 1 o'clock today. Okay. How much is there? How much is not spoken for? How much can we talk about on allocations? And we're going to have a good discussion with finance tomorrow, also about what the levies are going to look like and what some tools we have. When the process is the same. We got to go through this list and say what are the must-haves, how much is there. We'll sit with Tom, and you saw several of those numbers were going to roll up into 4 years. We only need next year. For the dollars. Some of them were, well, maybe we can wait till next year, maybe we will. But it's not rocket science. We just got to roll up our sleeves and get in there. And some of those dollars are already accounted for. Some aren't. Many of them aren't affordable.
Until we have a crash.
Yeah.
I guess Yeah, the only other question I had was, so when we're talking about the breach one, that's insurance coverage, right? We have an insurance plan to cover this?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, what Tom had referenced, each year we try to get the most that we can based on the risk tolerance. And tell you, cyber risk is one of the greatest risks that's facing the county.
Right.
We have a lot of physical risk, but that is, you know, what keeps me awake at night.
Right.
The market is still not there because of just the risk and the threats that are out there. And we try to get as much coverage as we can, but at the end of the day, you can only get so much that's available. Our general liability umbrella coverages do not cover cyber risk. They're standalone policies, and they are limited. So when we present the insurance renewal, and probably in probably in the October meeting cycle, I can speak a little bit more to that, but that is, it's always a challenge. We're in the renewal cycle right now, and so I don't have much more to report.
Okay.
But in October, we'll hear a little bit.
I thoroughly appreciate the breakdown of all these pieces. Thoroughly loved it. But I'm not really comfortable passing this along to the board until we know what of those supplementals break down just for next year dollars and what could be avoided, what cans could be kicked down the road. Even if the whole thing passes as a whole, I still think we need to present it in the actual part that we want to chew, the bite of the apple that we actually want to take.
Usually what
Well, I
happens
think
is that's what the sharpening does back behind the scenes and comes back. We're not passing a budget today.
I understand that,
Okay.
I'm just saying, but we're talking about before recommending this to the board. I'm reticent to recommend this in its present form. Although I love it to look at it, I don't recommend it because there are a lot of pieces that if someone doesn't go through and digest it this way, they're gonna miss some of the nuances of these supplemental costs that aren't for next year specific.
But I think we got a really good idea of what some of those costs were that we could kick down the road from Tom's report.
Trying to be a helper. I agree. However, I think we could probably move this forward with a little amendment on the end of it that maybe we prioritize or have a better outline so that we can make the process go forward, but get exactly what Matt's talking about is a little bit more direct information to the rest of the board. Is that feasible?
Sure. And that's, you know, over the next 3 weeks before we get to the 28th or whatever, that's kind of what we're gonna have to do is just really identify what is the must-have for next year and what is available for fiscal '24. And, you know, and then if there is some options, if you will, if there's some decisions that I need to kind of show those to you guys on the 28th, and we can have some more direction.
And because I'll tell you, I'm afraid if we only send that little bit and we don't do it in the whole, we're not withholding, but we're not sharing all that information with the rest of the board members. Finance will get this, but you know, I don't know how many people are on finance that are on this committee as well. So that's the only thought I had, is that everybody needs to have a really good concept of everything that was presented to us today.
That's fine. But what I'm saying is I took copious notes, and none of us like to sit in the cow or the board meeting and have someone just postulate off these notes and opinions. Can we just boil it down to next year and what is dollars available and necessary to do? I'm just asking.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you, because if we put it out there, it's just gonna keep going on and on and on. But I do appreciate knowing some of the things that you pointed out very well. We can put this off. We're gonna have to deal with it later, but that doesn't need to come out in the presentation, because I think it would just go on.
What we're saying is thank you for scaring the hell out of us. Let's move on.
I'm not trying to scare.
It succeeded really well.
Because some of these things by coming in would replace other things, so then that cost might go away, or they might create efficiencies, they might change headcount. I don't know, and so I would wanna just take all of that out, so that they, again, you don't have people saying, find another way when that's not the whole picture, you know, it's not even a part of next year, so they.
Their budget's going to grow, we just don't know by how much and how long.
Well,
Besides, with that caveat.
IT is just consuming every organization, it's not just the county.
Yeah, it is. But it impacts productivity and it impacts, you know, there are other things that come with it that really enhance what's going on. So how do you modify that? You know,
Very difficult.
That's a rhetorical.
And I don't want to even think about ransomware.
Yeah, me either.
All right, thank you for your
That
time.
caveat, we'll send you forward, but we do want to hear a breakdown between future and next year. Succession plan document.
Well, we are pleased to report, or pleased to provide you an updated succession plan document. This is something that was on our county administrator's goals, and I know this committee was really interested in what do we do if we have to replace an elected or appointed officer for the county in an interim or a permanent basis. Some offices have statutory paths that have to be followed. Others can be done administratively or through county board appointment. This document goes through each office. We've asked each office and officer to update it accordingly. So it is in your hands. We're pretty proud of it, and hopefully it's succinct and straightforward enough to let you know if something were to happen, if somebody were to leave for whatever reason, you know the path for a short-term or a permanent replacement.
And you're going to pass this out to everybody, not just us, correct?
So what we're going to do is actually, we're going to make a note in the county administrator report that it is available and was presented to this committee, and if any other county board member not on administrative service committee would like a copy, we'd be happy to deliver it.
I put it in everybody's mailbox.
Then, you know, scratch that comment, we'll put it in everybody's box and just make a note accordingly.
And I don't know that it needs to be gone through line by line by, you know, go forward at a meeting, but I do think it's nice to know that this is out there and there's a process and we'll
We had
point
talked
to
about it,
and,
yeah.
you know, it is nice to see it in one place.
I took the time to read the whole thing, liked it.
I did too, very much.
I liked it, thank you.
Unlike when I don't read about fishing, I did actually read.
Yeah.
Are there any questions on the succession planning document?
No, thank you.
All right.
Strategic report card, is that? Hand it off.
With your permission, could I just do strategic plan report card and
Go right ahead.
communications all at once?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, well,
Take it out of order. It's all right.
all right. Well, unfortunately, our communications intern, Lisa, has completed her internship. We're gonna miss her, but she left us with a fantastic August report card for y'all that hit every strategic area of the county. So thought you would all appreciate this document. I'll also send you an electronic version as well. All right. Are there any pieces you'd like me to go over with you all?
Lovely.
Agreed, it really is.
So what's the score? It's a report card you get.
Well, that's a score that
You passed.
Report card,
That's a fail.
This is the new grading system, this is standard grade, this is not ABC.
Well, I'm stuck on the A+ system.
Yeah, well, I'm more than happy to receive an A+ on behalf of the county. Though I would like to state for the record that the county board, I believe, sets the score.
It's, I think, you guys are doing a wonderful job, really.
Thank you.
Do we get another intern? Like, what's the process for your intern?
Well, that depends on the workforce network. They pay for the intern to funds that they receive.
Yeah.
And it all depends on whether or not somebody is interested, whether or not they're a good fit for the department. And unfortunately, you know, they only get a certain amount of hours to allocate to each person. So Lisa is now looking for a full-time position. If you noticed on social media, we were very sure to give her a great send-off and thank you because, you know, as you can see, you've done great work for us. That being said, I would like to transition to the communications report if there's no questions. And I'm also going to hit send right now. So you have the electronic version of the report too. So all reports as well. All right, so I would like to start out with this document and kind of pick up where I left off with Archive Social, the social media records retention for us and for various elected offices and departments. And I would like to hit on something that Member Altoff just said to us. What is the dollar savings on this? Well, we need to have social media record retention to comply with the Records Retention Act. And to do it on our own, as different departments, we'd be looking at $399 per subscription. Instead, we realized that for some of the departments that were smaller, as far as social media records went, we could all bundle together and only pay $599 a month, $599. So that is a true savings right there, because we decided to collaborate across elected offices and departments. But that's not the only thing that went on today, or went on in the past month for communications. We were very lucky and successful in getting the Archive Social software up. We already have departments collaborating and working together on that and coming together, but we've also had various departments get new training opportunities. In the DOT, two of their communications officers, Connie Martoccio and Chris Grass, just finished their advanced PIO training. That is not easy. Just so you know, that comes from FEMA, and it takes hours upon hours upon hours of time to complete. So congratulations to them that they got that certification. And now they're helping other communications officers across the county do this as well. And Dave Christensen of the EMA is reaching out to his contacts at IEMA to try to bring a training here so we don't have to leave the county to be trained. So great collaboration between the different communications officers across the county. Another thing I would like to highlight is that we've been fortunate with really good media coverage over the past month. So I don't know if you guys saw a wonderful spread on the Northwest Herald about the Midwest Interstate Trail, but that was a collaboration with the Kenosha County Communications folks, county administration, and it actually received really good coverage. It got on the Northwest Herald front page. It made it onto NBC Chicago Digital News Services. And if you look at your electronic reports, you're going to see that the little links to the different pages are there as well. It even made the Capital Facts. Don't know if anybody caught that or not, but it did. Yes. But again, there are other examples of collaborations. For example, the Health Department and EMA joined up together to put out a joint press release regarding cooling centers across the county, meeting the residents' expectations of finding out information in a timely manner. Beyond that, we also have county administration working to be a service provider for different departments. This month, we put out press releases for the Treasurer's Office, which, by the way, made the Northwest Herald yesterday. You can see it on September 5th. We have worked with the Circuit Clerk's Office to put out a press release regarding the amnesty program and the expungement program that she's got going on this month. We also worked with the Planning and Development Department to put out a press release regarding the water forum. And we're going to be helping them push that out on social media and making sure that the recording of it gets onto our different channels so that people who can't attend in person can see it remotely. So that doesn't mean don't come, be there, it's best in person. But moving beyond that, we are growing on our social media channels. Reach has kind of hit a little bit of a speed bump for August. I guess people are on vacation, but again, we're going to be developing new ways to increase and enhance our reach because social media is the one particular communications platform that we as communications officers have that we can somewhat keep within our control. So again, we'll have more updates for you on that going forward, and we look forward to collaborating more with one another to create the best communications and the best stories for not just county board members, but the public. Questions?
So for the reach, is that measured by, like when it says how many people are reached on the bottom of your Facebook thing? Is that an issue in the algorithm? Is that an algorithm issue, do you think?
Partially, and I'm also kind of cheating a little bit. LinkedIn doesn't have reach, it has unique impressions.
Okay.
So using the same, same words for different things.
Right.
But some of it's an algorithm issue, some of it is timing, people being on vacation. Some of it is things are evolving, and you got to figure out what the next step is. I know for me at least, I want to start exploring more into hashtags, creating more video content, and leveraging AI, quite frankly, that is included in our Adobe iCloud or Creative Cloud packages. Just the other day, I generated for the first time an AI graphic for the Mental Health Board. That was a story for them to put out that had an AI graphic and then contact the Mental Health Board. You know what, might as well just show it to you while I'm here, right?
Sure, yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's hard
It's cool, it's cool.
It's hard to get the beating the algorithm and getting Facebook or Twitter or anyone to share your thing is can be a difficult process.
Several of us sat in on a webinar on artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Last week or so, and we went ahead and added that to our goals for next year. Figure out how to leverage AI, for providing public services. And she did it right off the bat. She just put in, typed in, find a grumpy guy, and wrote one.
Well, actually, that was more to torment Pete more than anything else, but the
you're the grumpy guy?
No, it was actually blonde 50-year-old executive dancing. And it actually was pretty close, in all fairness, but yeah. Here, so let's see, I don't have the computer up to show you, but that was generated by AI.
It's gone.
So, you didn't get to see the cover here, but.
Alicia, you said
Right there.
there was a seminar.
I mean, it had my input with it too, and it's like I would put it into different things.
It was a webinar.
Yeah.
Oh, a webinar.
But that's just one.
The Illinois City County Management Association, I think, did a webinar. Actually, there's another one this afternoon from NACO that maybe you were going to.
Exactly, I'm going to attend it. Yes.
It's really amazing if you're looking for a new idea to do something. This was done in March. My son was up and he was playing with it. My youngest son works, he and a couple other people run a computer, like if you need a spreadsheet or something built, he can build it. But, and he says, here, give me an example. And so he goes, write me a script to combine The Godfather and Terminator in a sequel. Okay? And literally 30 seconds later, it came out with Michael and his father are walking down the street. The Terminator around the corner shoots Michael. His dying breath, he says, make a deal. And the Terminator becomes the protector for the mom.
Oh, I want to see that.
And literally, that was in less than 3 minutes. Wow. And it's like, I don't know about you guys, I don't think I could come up with a movie idea on my own in 3 days, much less in 3 minutes. And which is, by the way, one of the reasons why the strike's going on in Hollywood right now. Because you can do that in 3 minutes without knowing anything more other than putting the sentence in. And oh, by the way, it came out in script form, like this is, you're on this street in this location and you turn this way and this, so it was really.
Well, I do have to note though that there are limits to it. I mean, you do need to supervise it. For example, with the graphic design, I mean, I'm working on another one right now about, the best way to watch a county board meeting, in your pink fuzzy slippers in front of the television so that, and then it advertise our YouTube channel. But oh my goodness, I've seen some really creepy pink fuzzy slippers that have been, created by that graphic. I've seen really gnarly toes. I've seen, so again, it's like, that's not going to tell the story I want to tell you. So again, it does require a bit of massaging, and it does require creative input of, I want it to have this element or that, or maybe I want it to be on black and white scale, maybe I want it to be enhanced color. So again, it all kind of depends, and it does require supervision. I don't want you to think that it's the ultimate, easy button, kind of like you saw those.
No, I've seen some pretty bad GPT emails sent to my husband. So he's a professor, and he's got a long-winded thing saying, I didn't take the test, I want to take the test, which he'd rather read those two sentences. other than a long lie about your grandma that didn't actually die because there's no grandma.
It always is the grandmother. I don't know why, but it always is.
There was one that was like a three page, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Just tell your students, you just want them to say, I didn't take the test, I want to take the test. That's all you really want to read, yes.
I think we've gotten off topic here.
I understand. Well, it is a communication.
I'll leave you with that happy thought, but again, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Sorry about that. Any other questions? Okay, capital plan update?
Oh, no. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
I know you want to get out to union negotiations too.
Quickly. In Cary, the joint training facility is still scheduled for substantial completion in September. September 15th is the date that's being held next week. Substantial completion means that contractually the work is almost done. Punch lists will get developed from there, and then fitting the space with furniture and et cetera will follow. I don't know the sheriff's schedule as far as announcements and that goes.
But I thought they said in law and government that there was still a portion of it, the offices in the back that wasn't gonna be completed by then.
Correct.
Okay.
The firing range, they're still using the month of December as a placeholder. I'm not sure that that'll happen. It could. It'll be somewhere between December and April, based mainly on mechanical equipment that's still not finalized. I wanted to take a minute to talk about Henry County Government Center building envelope project. You've been hearing about this for years, actually since 2016. That's when we kicked that project off with an idea to solve that problem, the problem of water management. The windows and flashings were just not performing, and water was infiltrating the building. So in 2016, we put together a plan. We started with a plan that said, what if we just attack the whole facility? What would that take in resources? And it was about $3 million to stage the entire facility, which would have been difficult, A, to have the right people do the work, B, have that much of an impact on the facility at once with ongoing work. So instead, we broke it into projects, sub-projects that were to be scheduled to be complete next year. This year is the last year we're going to be working on that project. So there is no 2024 phase 7. I don't have to say it again. And what we've done, what we've accomplished is we've touched every surface of the exterior of the 1990 expansion, which is probably makes up 70% of the courthouse when we see it. We look at an aerial view, there's a core, which was built in the late 60s, was completed in 70. And then there's everything else that went onto that building. And with that original, it's been successful, by the way. So we opened up brick walls and we put in new flashings and we replaced the existing windows with high performance glazing systems. We're about to complete the door entrance systems. We're selective. Where our original budget said we're going to do everything, we tried to narrow it down to the critical components. Whereas some of the accessory components we felt could remain in place and still serve for another 20 years or so. So that original budget at $3 million comes back today, where we're basically $1 million less than that. So we managed not only to, obviously that budget in 2016 was a bit conceptual, although we looked at unit pricing, et cetera. We've been very careful to try to make the most impact with the resources that the county board has bestowed upon us. So it's been a successful project. I thank the county board for its support over the years, and we're glad to be done with it. It's an important project. Thank you, Tom.
You did a good job communicating with the occupants of the courthouse throughout the process.
Thanks. Court services, interior renovations, this security changes made in that space. The contract's been let. Submittals are coming in now. Typically, that's about a month to get those in, reviewed and out. then those materials get sourced and purchased, and we're thinking sometime post-holiday to get that work started. And it really should take 9 weeks or so to be done with once we get going on it. The chiller pre-purchase, that's just kind of a stock line item there that will be bid in. The installation of the chiller we have purchased and will be here in March. Will go out in October, in which we'll select a mechanical contractor to do the piping and installation work. Valley High Memory Care, we've heard we have a date for mobilization and excavation. Should begin October 2nd, provided this weather stays dry. That's our target date for mobilization. Other projects, Valley High kitchen flooring replacement, we have a contract in place. That work will begin, the contractor will be mobilized on October 23rd, and there'll be about a 5-day turnaround for that work, for the kitchen flooring epoxy system to be installed. So there's like a 3 or 4 day start up where we're gonna take everything out, take the kitchen equipment out, clean everything, paint anything that can be painted, do the floor, bring the stuff back in. So the week from that 23rd, that Monday, we intend to have that kitchen ready to be operational again. EV infrastructure, Walker Consultants owes us a draft report. They are late in delivering that report. We did get budget numbers that were used to populate the capital plan. However, there hasn't been a dialogue. We haven't seen a finished product from them yet. We expect that to happen soon. How soon? I don't know. I asked for a date last week and have yet to receive that. Greenhouse gas emission inventory. We are meeting with consultants that we're working with this Friday to review the draft report, make any changes so that it can be published and finalized in the upcoming weeks. Archive storage rework, the plans are in place and pricing is we're out for quotes right now for that work. So best case scenario, we're looking at maybe a late October start and a December, January finish. This kind of depends on the civil side of it. Can we get a contractor that's interested in putting in a relatively short drive and get it paved yet this year? The rest of it's an overhead door. It's a little bit of lighting. It's racking, it's shelving, it's moving things, it's putting up some additional partitions within the structure. That's where I'm at.
Great.
Thank you. Okay. Now it's your turn.
Now I'll be quick. We're going to do a written report for the quarter next at the committee of the whole, a week from tomorrow. So we'll have a lot in there. Just for me and Carrie right now, I think that everything's budget. And as noted, we're going to be meeting this afternoon at 1 and see how things are rolling up in anticipation of a good discussion with finance tomorrow. Also this afternoon in this room at 1:30, we're going to be hosting a meeting with IDOT, our DOT guys, Metra, Union Pacific, and in the Conservation District to kind of talk about this proposed extension of passenger rail service out of Huntley to Rockford. Got some impacts on some of the areas it's going to be traversing through, and we want to get a good idea what the schedule is looking like and just kind of introduce the project to McHenry County. So we'll be doing that this afternoon also. Several other things, a couple of real estate issues. The McHenry County Housing Authority building, a couple blocks south of here, they moved out of there a year or so ago. They finally sold the building.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but that's good news. Sold it to a private entity that's going to make a fitness karate studio or something in there. But we get the money because we fronted the money for that sale through our Advanced McHenry County programs. Those dollars are coming back to us, and that's good. Another real estate issue is, as some of you know now, we own the bank at the corner of Randall and Algonquin, yes. Northeast corner. It's been closed since 2016, but it's ours now, and we acquired it this summer. We are going to put out an queue shortly. Admiral Tunder's working on it, to just talk with brokers about how they would market it, you know, how they think it's best put back into private hands, you know, and how can we maximize our return. So we'll set up a situation where we hopefully will have several people that want to have that discussion with us and do some interviews and kind of make some recommendations on how we get that back.
That's the old Bank of America building?
Yeah.
Okay. One of your problems on that site, and I bet you we didn't fix it, is that it has no right to connect into the shopping center behind it. So unless that's condemned, nobody's gonna do anything with that building.
Yeah, it's not worth as much as we were hoping. And you know, that access was taken into account for the damage to that building, and that's why we got it for what we did.
Okay.
So I was gonna ask you, she was gonna ask you, how did we get it?
Yeah, was it bonus and investment?
No, we did so much, they call it damage to remainder of the, and Joe, you help me on this, that the bank shut down. You know, we cut off their access points from Randall, and they just decided they didn't want to be there anymore. The owner had a lease with Bank of America, so he was not motivated to
do anything
to sell until like last year, because he was continuing to get money from Bank of America. But when we took the rights of way, probably 2019 through court action, but it was not ultimately settled in court as to what we owed until earlier this year. So we owed so much, Transportation Committee said just take it, and we'll try and get something out of it, rather than give it back.
Unless you work out a deal with the stuff behind you, there's no way to get to it. It's just make a piece of land.
What did we get for McHenry County Housing Development Building?
They cleared 384, I think.
Sweet, nice.
So do we still have files and things in storage there or no?
No, we didn't.
No, we had to scramble and get that stuff out. Scott did a good job of finding some climate-controlled storage.
Yay, Scott.
And we got that taken care of for 12 months. Now, the last thing Mr. Burrows was talking about was converting space out at our Heartland's records storage facility, because we're putting in another door there that you can back a truck in, and re-racking shelving to get things that were at the Housing Authority were stored off-site into there.
Item 6.3 on your agenda for this morning.
Was
talks about that and the transition from temporary storage place for, let's say, a year, and then ultimately to occupiers.
And what was the square footage of the housing authority?
That's 7,500.
The old one?
The old housing authority building.
We did good.
Any other questions of Pete?
Yeah, that's really good.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Pam, second by all